Louder. Too loud. Okay.
Okay. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're live on the Brushfire Mind. That means it must be 2000 on a Sunday night. Good to see you. Good to see you, Lucas. You're already in there. Good to see you, brother. And tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to be asking the question: who are the real racists? We're going to talk about wow, I almost forgot her name. Frederica Wilson, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson. We're going to be talking about Trump on lost soldiers. We're going to be talking about Wes Bellamy a bit. If y'all haven't heard that name, it's because, well, he's just not being talked about, and he really should, because he's responsible for a murder, a death. And we're going to talk a little bit about Richard Spencer. So buckle up. This is the Brushfire Mind. Okay, and I was just reminded by my tech that, well, I need to fix the intro because apparently you're only seeing the upper left quarter of it, but that's okay. We'll muddle through. It's been an interesting week. If you've been following the news, and you should, because this stuff matters, and the reasons it matters are actually because it shouldn't matter as much. So, Donald Trump called the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson to offer his condolences. Before we get into anything about race baiting, whether or not it was a good call, let me say this about that. There is never a good way to offer condolences. I don't care how flowery, how poetic, how perfect your prose. When you offer condolences to someone who has lost a husband or a child or a brother, whatever, when you're offering condolences to the bereaved, there is no way that that sentence doesn't sound like, hey, I'd like to remind you that somebody died and it sucks. Sorry. There's just no, I don't care how good your condolences are. There's just no way. As far as whether or not Trump said he knew what he signed up for, let me tell you something. When we sign that line, we know what we're signing up for. If you go and enlist and you somehow don't register that you've just written a check to the United States government for an amount up to and including your life to purchase the freedom of every American, you're not paying attention. When I signed up, I knew damn well that what I was signing up for was to defend the Constitution of the United States of America from all enemies, foreign, domestic, and anybody else they'd let me shoot at. That's what we do. The Army, you've got every MOS in the world, every military occupational specialty. Any job you can think of, there is an equivalent military occupational specialty. We've got drivers, we've got doctors, cooks, and yes, warriors. But at the end of the day, the job of the American warfighter, the job of the uniformed military services is to kill people and blow shit up. Because out there are jihadists, there are child mutilators, there are slave traders, there are human traffickers, and I'm making a distinction here. I'm making an important distinction here. There are monsters in this world. Those monsters have military installations. They have weapons of mass destruction. I don't care what these Dick Burger Democrats want to say. The WMDs are a thing, and they're out there. We know about chemical weapons. We know about North Korea with nuclear weapons. Our enemy is provisioned, armed, and dangerous. And the job of the American warfighter is to kill people and blow shit up, because there are people out there that just need killing, and there's shit that needs blowed up. That's a hard bottom line right there. And there ain't no getting around it. If you are not a trigger puller, if you are in the military and you are not a direct trigger puller putting bad men in the dirt, then you are responsible for putting beans, bullets, and bedrolls on the backs and in the bellies of war-fighting hard men. Your job is to make sure that those hard war-fighting men can kill bad people and blow their shit up. That's what we do. Bad people don't want to get killed, and they don't want their shit to get blowed up. So they try to kill us back, and that's their right. They have every right in the world to try to kill us right back. That's fair. But we happen to be a little better at it. That's not as fair.
A little?
There is one major factor that makes the American warfighter far superior to the enemies we face. One could argue it's our training, one could argue it's our technology, so on and so forth, but that's not it. The truth of the matter is that the American warfighter revels in and is at times sexually excited by the prospect of destroying wicked men, of smashing and smashing evil. You get a little rise, the smell of gun smoke and blood. The American warfighter is terrifying to the enemies of the United States because he loves killing bad men. It's just what we do. We get out, we find them where they live, and we get rid of them. And when American warfighters stop hunting and killing bad men, women get raped, children get mutilated, cities get burned, sporting events get bombed. Now, the Donald apparently said he knew what he signed up for. I hope most of you have seen General Kelly's speech where he explained that he had counseled the Donald to tell people, even knowing that we know what we sign up for, it is hard for our spouses, our children, our parents, our loved ones. They only understand academically, if that, what it is that we've signed up for. They won't ever really know what it is to be in the shit and faced with the possibility of certain death. They won't know what it's like to be surrounded by evil men who are firing weapons at you. They won't know what it's like to be marching through the same 12-foot tall marijuana field that is funding the men who are attacking you with exploding motorcycles and killing poor Mary and Curtis, who were too young to die when they got them. And they won't know what it's like to tell their young special to go and lock the truck. While you go check on the wounded after an 88 millimeter recoilless rifle murders sleeping mechanics who were just trying to fix their trucks. They don't know that. That's not a part of the calculus for the loved ones and the family. We know what we signed up for. But even as much as I love these guys, they don't know what it is to tow a half a man to a helicopter and go back to the rest of it. That's not part of their math. It's not part of their world. And with any luck, I killed enough bad guys that it won't have to be. Boys?
Sorry, it's hard to follow that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but
I
I
will
gotta
say
stop
this.
talking for a minute.
I will. I have no interest in killing people. I've never have had an interest in killing people. When I tried to go into the military, I specifically went for the Navy for linguistics. My goal was to sit in a little tin box on an aircraft carrier and listen to whatever foreign language I had been trained in, and listen for things that mattered. Um, and that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to have a gun. I didn't want to have a weapon of any kind. I didn't want to kill people. That's not something that I could live with. Not guilt, mind you. The haunting thing that comes from taking someone else's life, evil or otherwise. But speaking of evil, I understand the necessity for good men to kill on behalf of innocent people, so that they can enjoy their freedom. It is absolutely necessary. War is absolutely necessary as long as evil exists in the world, and evil will always exist in the world. To explain to someone on the left that I am not pro-war is one of the most impossible things that I've done, and I'm not sure that I've ever convinced anyone of that. I'm not affiliated with any party. I'm not affiliated with any particular viewpoint, but I understand the need to kill those who want to kill us or who want to kill innocent people. And it is a hard truth. It is not something that I would never be in the position that Chris was talking about earlier, the taste of blood, the smell of gunpowder, being sexually excited by killing, is not what I was built to do. But I understand and appreciate the need for those men to kill on behalf of myself and my brothers and sisters who share a citizenship in this country. And I support them, and I believe in them. And it's very, very important that they exist, because evil exists and evil will always exist.
See, I was kind of the opposite of Cade. I the thought of having to live with doing a terrible thing, killing somebody, that part never bothered me. I was just a pot-headed slacker who. I mean, it's just we're being honest. We're being honest. I totally would have enlisted and all that other stuff, but I was just a dumb kid, as many dumb kids are. And by the time I became a smarter adult, um, you know, Uncle Sam says I'm too old for him now. But just the same, um, from a logical standpoint, yes, I understand that these things are necessary. But from the emotional standpoint, if I ever had to do the math outside of watching it on a TV show or whatever, no. No, I can't picture being that guy. My father is a police officer, and there's been a few times where he's had to deliver the news about dead children to parents, and those are the days he goes home and gets blackout drunk. Um, yeah, I can't even understand it. Now, of course, we say all this to say because Randy the Macho Man Savage's clone. Chris, do you want to just explain why we're getting all weepy and emotional over dead soldiers?
Well, there's the obvious that I. Nope, I can't talk about that. There's nope, I can't talk about that. Okay, how about this? Frederica Wilson is an unrepentant racist. But yes, dresses like Randy Savage. She just looks like she needs a Slim Jim every time she steps up to the microphone. Uh, this woman I'm making it a point to ignore the comments section right now, guys, because the last couple of weeks I've allowed myself to respond to you too much and got distracted. But I do want to pick this up right here. Legion says General Kelly's son died in combat in Afghanistan. His speech should have shamed Frederica Wilson into silence, but she of course doubled down, calling herself a rock star. This woman pimped a grieving wife for shame. You're absolutely right. That's spot on. And I wanted to go ahead and read that one because while I'm getting all this figured out, for some reason that comment is still buried behind the sofa for the viewers. Y'all need to run your mouths a little more, get the comments moving up faster so you can read the shit. Anyway, I'll be getting back to comments a little bit later. I want you to remember, when you hear Frederica Wilson make claims of racism, this woman, this is the same woman who stood in front of Congress every day for a month with a big sign and a day counter like, you know, X number of days since the last fatal injury at the paper mill that said, days Trayvon's killer has remained at large, right? I think Zimmerman was a shithead. Well, we've seen a bunch of stuff out of Zimmerman, and yes, I'm going back to Trayvon and Zimmerman for a minute. We've seen a bunch of shit out of Zimmerman since the trial. He's a shithead. There ain't no two ways about it. He's been arrested for unrelated stuff here and there. He tried to sell the gun that killed Trayvon. Blah 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 blah. But here's the thing. At the scene, the police determined at the scene not to arrest him because it was a clear-cut, open and shut case of self-defense. George Zimmerman ended the life of a man who tried to murder him. The story of Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman is not the story of a man who murdered another man. It is the story of a man who bungled an attempted murder and lost his life in the process because an armed citizen had the wherewithal to defend himself, as is not only his constitutional right, but his expressly stated right within the laws of the state where he resided. They have stand your ground laws in Florida. Zimmerman's not a hero, right? Don't get that. Don't think that that's what I'm saying here. Zimmerman's not a hero, but he did not murder Trayvon. He defended himself. Frederica Wilson was part of the she was part of the loud, rattling, empty barrel brigade, thank you, that led to, after the police refused to arrest Zimmerman based on it being a clear-cut case of self-defense, and the prosecutor and the attorney general in Florida said, no, this is clearly a clear-cut case of self-defense. There is not evidence sufficient to pursue a conviction. Ergo, we will not be prosecuting George Zimmerman for the murder of Trayvon Martin because this case is clearly not murder.
Wait. It wasn't his white Hispanic privilege?
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Because if I haven't said it enough times yet, Frederica Wilson and she's a Democrat. But, as Clavin says, so when the Attorney General refused to press charges because no charges could be pressed, and no, Legion, it was in fact Frederica Wilson herself that said empty barrel. In fact, she said, I looked it up in the dictionary. Empty barrel is racist. That's a racist term. Oh, what? What? The empty barrel rattles the loudest. It's an old adage. And how in the fuck is that racist? If you have a barrel and there's nothing in it except for a penny or something. It's an empty barrel except for one object, and you shake the shit out of it. What you have is a giant maraca. If you have a barrel that's full to the brim with water and sealed so that it doesn't splash, I guess, and you can pick it up and shake the shit out of it, it doesn't make a lot of noise because there's nowhere for the thing to rattle around in. Likewise, as a metaphor, it has often been said that the empty barrel rattles the loudest because stupid people are noisy. Gotta recollect. Gotta reconnect.
Now, as a barrel American, she has every right to be upset.
Yeah, I mean, if she'd have said it was a fat joke, meh. I might have let that go. Fat joke. You barrel ass bitch. Anyway. See, and this is why I was trying to ignore the comments. Legion, now you lost my track. What was it? Okay, so after the Attorney General Ford refused to try the case in Zimmerman Trayvon, fired him and replaced him with a woman who, before she took the job, said very publicly that she would prosecute Zimmerman. They literally got rid of the AG that was doing the job correctly and replaced him with someone who said that she would play the game for Arizona. Someone who promised, on behalf of the President of the United States and the Attorney General, of the United States, to prosecute a local case. Let's keep that in mind. This was the federal government getting involved in a local criminal case, which had already had a determination. Frederica Wilson was part of that. Why? Because George Zimmerman is a white Hispanic. Now, that's also important. George Zimmerman was never white nothing until it was suddenly convenient to the narrative. George Zimmerman is Hispanic. He lived his whole life being Hispanic. And if y'all remember the MSNBC got the 911 call.
I thought it was CBS.
It was NBC. No, it was NBC.
It was NBC?
Okay, yeah.
It was NBC. Well, one of them. They're all a bunch of liars and shitbirds. Anyway.
I mean, his last name was Zimmerman, or is Zimmerman. Yeah, I'm just saying, he's got some white in it.
Okay, prior to the Zimmerman case, how many times have you heard the phrase white Hispanic?
Oh no, that didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean other than on a job application, if it doesn't list Hispanic as something, Hispanics are supposed to check white. Because basically what it boils down to are black Americans and enemies of black Americans. And that's how it's viewed by so many people.
Yeah, you really want to offend Hispanic people? Call them white.
Yeah, good luck with that.
They don't like it.
So anyway, we spent enough time on the history of Zimmerman and Trayvon. I didn't mean for that to draw out as far as it was.
Oh yeah, brother.
It is important to put this woman in her proper context. That's the kind of shit she does. She hates white people, and she uses the agent of government to cause them harm wherever it is possible for her to do so.
Which is one of the most un-American things.
I don't think she actually hates white people. I think she's sort of like Al Sharpton, and racism is profitable if you're on the right side of the equation. And she's parlayed it into a sweet, sweet gig where she gets 6 figures a year and gets to go on TV and wear that ridiculous flipping hat. And everybody takes her seriously.
It doesn't mean she doesn't believe it, though.
Yeah, I think with her and Sharpton and they're like Wes Bellamy, Barack Obama, I think it's more like the Joker thing. You're good at something, in this case hating white people, you
should
never
get paid.
do it for free.
Ah,
If you're good at something, don't do it for free. Which, by the way, having said that, subscribe, give to the Patreon account, and get ready to fund a film because we're about to blow this shit up. Anyway, moving back to the topic and not asking for any more money. Give me money.
he wasn't asking; he was telling.
Our white privilege account is dwindling.
And actually, yeah. Speaking of money, you in the peanut gallery there, Legion, especially. How's my sound coming through? Because I spent a pile of money on these new mics that we're wearing. Just leave me a comment about that. I want to know what you think. Obviously, I'm going to go back and watch it later, but boy, that camera's close. Look at that big ass hand. Wow. Anyway.
That doesn't have anything to do with the camera.
Yeah, it has a little bit to do with the camera.
It's bigger than its head.
So, while we're talking about unrepentant racist monsters, let's talk about Wes Bellamy and Richard Spencer. Now, I bring those two up in context. Mario says it waxes and wanes, not very good.
No,
Okay.
Legion says it waxes and wanes.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I'll take a look at that. So, Wes Bellamy, Richard Spencer. I'm not a big fan of Richard Spencer. Take him or leave him. I don't particularly care what he's got to say. As I understand it, he is a white nationalist and not a white supremacist, and there is a very important distinction. I know the lefties are all jumping up and down. Basically, white nationalist, white supremacist, whatever. It doesn't matter. You're white. That means you're a racist and a Nazi. Like Ben Shapiro, the racist, bigoted, anti-Semitic Nazi Jew.
Yeah, no, that's right. No, it's Jew. Jew is the last and most important word there.
Oh, sorry, Legion. I didn't mean to dox you. And I'm especially sorry that you live in one of those shitty states where owning a personal protective firearm is difficult. You need to just load up the truck and drive away right now, brother.
Oh no, owning it's not hard. Now owning it legally.
Yeah. You should move to a state that's not an open rebellion against the Constitution. Anyway, Wes Bellamy. We're talking about a guy, young guy, but shows up to a city. He's the vice mayor of Charlottesville, Virginia. Shows up to his city council meetings wearing unapologetically racist, black supremacist T-shirts, slogans, and he's got the backpack he wears. Black Panther. His Twitter feed is full of things like "I hate all white people" and "I hate white snow." Every other tweet has the raised fist emoji, and the guy's a monster. I mean, he's just a total monster. And then you've got Richard Spencer, who, like I said, he's a white nationalist, apparently not a white supremacist. And I'm not going to go into the difference between nationalism and supremacism here. We'll do another show on that. But they are very different. Very different creatures. But anyway, Richard Spencer was one of the organizers for the alt-right demonstration in Charlottesville that ended in tragedy. And so, of course, the news loves to talk about how they want to put the responsibility for that young woman's death on his head. But how did that go by? How did that happen? Wes Bellamy revoked the permit for the assembly. The NAACP, for God's sake, sued on behalf of the white nationalists for their First Amendment. The federal court said, no, you cannot revoke their permit. They absolutely have a First Amendment right to speak, to assemble peaceably. And then the governor declared a state of emergency. All this before they even assembled. So when the white nationalists and the alt-right guys assembled, guys, like I said, honestly, I didn't even say this yet. I hate that I need to defend these guys, but at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is this. They have been doing peaceful assemblies for the last 2 years without any violence. Antifa, BLM, and those guys have not. They have a couple of years now of active, repetitive, and life-threatening with lethal weapons violence. Right? So Wes Bellamy is an elected official who elected to use the engine of government to suppress the freedom and liberty of American citizens. Anytime you hear anything about the Charlottesville narrative, I don't care if they're getting into the conspiracy crap about how the alt-right guys, there were just 300 or 400 of them, and they were being funneled down one alleyway into the waiting jaws of the angry, murderous leftists, which the evidence seems to support that narrative pretty sufficiently. But at the very start of the whole thing, you have an elected official using his power as a government official to actively suppress the rights of American citizens without cause. The only cause he can give, the only possible cause he can give for rejecting the permit of these guys is that he disagrees with their politics. Literally, the guy who tweets, I hate all white people and I hate white snow, which I don't quite get that, but whatever.
What other color snow is there?
Right? Yellow?
Not at first.
But, I mean, this guy, how can that be seen as anything other than racist, a racist assault on a group of people based exclusively on their race by a person who openly and unrepentantly hates people of that race?
Ooh. Because racism is a system of privilege and power, and only white people can be racist. I mean, that was my SJW impersonation. I hope it came across.
Tell that to Japan.
I'll tell that to Rwanda. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
Brought up some
Hutu and Tutsi shit.
Ooh.
Shape of your nose gets you killed. Anyhow.
Yeah. So this past week, Wes Bellamy spoke at Clayton State University in Georgia, where I am a student. There was no state of emergency. We didn't call it the National Guard. But he's on the same side as the protesters who have been doing all the violence. When you go back and you look at the situation in Charlottesville, that kid drove into a crowd and killed that girl. But look at the situation, look at the court situation. He's not being tried with first-degree murder. He's not being tried for the crime of willfully and intentionally murdering somebody. Because the facts on the ground are looking more and more like what happened is he got surrounded, and he was in his car. He got surrounded by people in a violent mob, panicked, and shit went south. That's without even going into this whole media narrative where they keep trying to link the death of the 2 police officers that crashed their helicopter and say that somehow that's the fault of white nationalists or white supremacists. I mean, really? Did we have brothers in jackboots out there with RPG-7s taking down helicopters? Was that part of the protest? And if it was, what the hell does shooting down helicopters have to do with white nationalism? That makes as much sense as protesting the flag because you want to draw attention to police brutality. I mean,
I don't believe that for a second about the guy who mowed down the people, though. That's ridiculous.
what?
Because he was surrounded. I don't care if he was surrounded by people damaging his property, intimidating him, whatever. I watched the video of his challenger going block by block by block, building speed and mowing into a group of people. The dude's a murderer. He's a murderer, and he needs to fry for it.
I don't think Chris is saying that
I don't care about his emotional response. I don't care if it was, second degree murder. It was a crime of passion. It's still murder. He's a murderer.
I'm not saying that what he did was right.
Oh no, I know you're not. I know.
Okay.
I'm just saying, anytime someone tries to weave in an excuse, it bothers me.
Let me just point out that I'm not trying to weave in an excuse. But have you ever had your car surrounded by a group of angry people and they were clearly angry with you? I've only ever had it once. And I mean, I had to clean my seat afterwards. Like,
But you didn't drive several city blocks gaining speed.
No,
and
that's
running
why,
into a mob.
and that's why he's charged with a crime, and rightfully so. Don't misunderstand. But it's sort of like if I call you a dick and you punch me, you're going to be charged with a crime for punching me, and rightly so. But it's part of the story that I called you a dick. If you pull back far enough and you examine the whole thing, there are people that are going to say, well, Cameron got punched in the face because he called somebody a dick, not because Cade's a violent asshole. So I understand the point that you're trying to make, that we can't make excuses for that sort of behavior. But at the same time, you can't pretend like that he didn't have one of his windows bashed out by an angry mob. That is part of the story. It's why he's charged with second-degree murder and not first.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. And I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying that when I hear that part of the story used with that tone, with those words, it bothers me.
Okay, that's not the point.
Oh, I know.
So,
but I'm not going to sit back and not say something.
Do you want us just all to agree with everything you ever say, Chris?
Yeah, that's part of the show.
no.
No, it's okay. We can keep going. Sorry.
Plus,
mine and Kate's fault.
Steve's not on anymore, and he's the shit stirrer.
Well, no. My point about that not being the point is that the point is something else entirely. That's tangential. That's tangential to what we're talking about.
Your grammar turns me on.
But part of the point there is that Wes Bellamy is nearly as responsible for her death as the guy driving that car.
He is a part of the story, as Cameron said.
Because what Wes Bellamy did when he engaged the engine of government to suppress the liberties of American citizens, given the fact pattern of aggressive and violent behavior by the supporters of his own causes, is he attempted to murder the men who were meeting to hold a peaceful demonstration on that spot that day. He wanted people to die. Specifically, he wanted white people to die.
I think the left is desperate for another Kent State moment, honestly. Especially in the age of cell phones and Facebook and stuff like that.
Well, especially when all the cell phones and Facebook are telling the story that right-wing speakers are being actively suppressed by institutions and by angry mobs, and that left-wing activists are not just they're not just throwing some graffiti, doing a little what we might call innocent vandalism in the comparative context of the day. They're setting shit on fire. They're smashing out windows. They're tearing up cars. They're causing real serious property damage, and they are assaulting people with deadly weapons. You got the bike lock guy. The fact that he hasn't actually murdered somebody is a miracle. Frankly, if a stronger man was swinging that bike lock, there'd be some dead college kids out there. So I don't know if you've seen any of the videos of the professor with the bike lock, but he hit some brothers in the head, right tippy top on the top of their heads. And I guarantee if I tap you in the top of the head with a bike lock, that's the last thing you ever know.
What Cameron said, I'd like to point out real quick, is absolutely correct. I don't think it's the SJWs that are desperate for a Kent State moment, but the leftist media is begging for it.
Oh,
they
yeah.
want it more than anything.
And they're going out of their way to set it up.
Right. And we could have nuclear war with Korea, and if a Kent State moment happened before that happened, that's all they would talk about.
Yep. And as far as Charlottesville turning violent, people like Wes Bellamy are precisely the reason we have a Second Amendment. For fear, the Founding Fathers had the fear that violent, tyrannical, evil men would take political office and use the engine of government to suppress the liberty of American citizens. And it was their fervent hope that the shackles of tyranny be thrown off by the expenditure of our blood and treasure and our sacred honor.
They witnessed actual tyranny.
Yes.
And that's important. That's an important distinction, because these social justice warriors and these Antifa members and whatnot, they don't know what tyranny is. These kids, these neo-hippies, have no idea what tyranny is, any more than the hippie hippies knew what war was like. Just because
Right.
there was a camera in Vietnam for the first time, they were seeing the horrors of war on national television. They had no idea.
See, but that's you actually really touch on it right there. It was the cameras in Vietnam. It was one thing to hear about thousands of guys dying in World War II and the Korean War. It was another thing entirely to see it in full color in your living room, delivered to you by Cronkite on the 6 o'clock news. And that's when the real opinion shifted. While if you compare Vietnam to the past couple of wars we've had, there were many, many more casualties in Vietnam than the last couple of engagements we've engaged in. If you go back another 50 years and you compare Vietnam to the wars that came before it, there was actually a big drop in casualties with Vietnam compared to the other conflicts. But because it was in color and it was in your living room, and all of a sudden you could not ignore what it looked like to see some 19-year-old kid trying to hold his leg on even though it was gone, it changed everybody's opinion on it. You talked about things that aren't part of people's math. All of a sudden something became part of people's math, but they didn't have the whole equation. They didn't understand that every single guy there, both on our side and even on the Viet Cong, like, they knew what they were getting into. They knew what they were signing up for. This was going to be a fight, and it was going to be dirty. And that's how you win fights.
Yeah, it is.
They threw calculus into it, and then suddenly there were letters in their numbers, and that ain't as jolly as chocolate in your peanut butter. That just gets ugly.
Peanut butter in your
quick.
chocolate, buddy. Don't commit sacrilege.
I'm more of a fan of peanut butter, but anyway, the point is, they had
Really?
never seen anything like that. Yeah, peanut butter doesn't make me as fat, and it tastes really good.
I was about to ask, is that how you got so skinny?
There was a lot of peanut
I
butter.
don't know if y'all have noticed, but our boy Cade has been wasting away since we went live 2 years ago.
Yeah, there's less of me, and the hair went too.
Yeah.
Not my choice.
So, we've run off about scary, terrible, frightening stuff enough. There's one last thing I want to talk about. Major development. A few days ago, the United States of America, in the first ever giant robot battle, spanked Japan. Now don't get me wrong, Japan got in a good play. Their first move, they knocked the U.S. robot over, and the recovery was difficult there. But all in all, at the end of the day, with a good old American metal machine with a chainsaw for a hand, like Ash, walked up on and tore into that Japanese robot and said, "I'm here to kick ass, chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of bubble gum." That's right, a U.S.-made giant American robot utterly ripped apart this Japanese robot with a fucking chainsaw fist.
See, and if you'd have asked me, I'd have told you the Gundam would have won.
Yeah, and you'd have been wrong.
Maybe.
Tell you what America knows. Legion knows this. He can comment on this. I don't care what the professionals say. Size matters. Size matters a lot.
Oh, yeah, dude. Just ask my ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, that's right. America Prime. Eagle head, chain sword, and hand cannon. That's actually the robot. You're not wrong.
Americans, roll out. I really.
G.I. Joe, it's more than meets the eye.
What?
See what I did there?
I sort of see
Solid.
what you did there.
Knowing is half the battle. What's the other half?
Giant robots.
Battle. Just actual battle.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's, unless you've got some commentary on the giant robot battle.
No, but I do want to point out that, thank God, Jimmy Carter, at 93 years old,
we didn't even get to that.
has
Oh,
stepped
God,
up
yeah.
and volunteered to do what he does best, and that is to be completely ineffective by kissing the ass of dictators and killers and mass murderers.
That's not the only thing that Jimmy Carter did recently.
What else did he do?
Well, this is good.
Wait, well, let me finish this
Okay,
part,
fine.
though. That Jimmy Carter has volunteered and to go to North Korea and speak on behalf of America as if he represents or ever represented America, and try to bring an end to the nuclear possible nuclear conflict. I assume by giving them more weapons and allowing them access, because that's what
Or more money to build weapons.
William Jefferson Clinton did not want Jimmy Carter to go and talk to people. It sure as hell, Donald Trump is not going to allow that either. And he said that it was met with a negative response from the Trump administration. Well, no shit. But anyway, we avoided that, hopefully. Just, stay at your peanut farm, Jimmy, and just keep being so sweet that everyone likes you despite the fact that you almost ruined our country. Anyway, go.
Well, the other thing that Jimmy Carter did was prove that a broken clock is definitely right twice a day, because in a recent interview that he gave, he explained that basically the media has been harder on Trump than any other president in his lifetime, which, I mean, all by itself, to hear a Democrat say that, I mean, like it's the scene from Scanners like 10 times in a row there. But he goes on to explain. Yeah, yeah. You mean where Barack Obama's head explodes? You never see his face. It's just implied.
Right.
Anyhow. But he goes on to explain that a lot of the problems that we have in North Korea are actually Obama's fault. And that part of the reason why Hillary Clinton lost the election is that she was a terrible candidate. And I mean, I thought I was reading an article from The Onion, okay? I really did.
I thought he had avoided Alzheimer's. I'm really surprised.
I was too. I really did think it was a joke. But apparently, yeah, Jimmy Carter just kind of, he basically said Trump's not all bad. The media's been too hard on him. And
Hell, maybe we should have let him go to North Korea. Maybe he was actually going to stab the little Pillsbury Doughboy when he got close. He's just full of surprises, isn't he?
Oh.
Anyway, enough with Jimmy Carter. Wrap it up.
Well, I think the battery in my receiver may have gone. So I'm going to lean over this way, so you're getting me on at least 2 microphones, because I think my battery just died. Anyway, that's the show for tonight. Subscribe. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you know when we go live again. Keep an eye out. Follow us on Twitter. I try to drop a tweet about 10 minutes before we go live so that you know we're about to. And keep an eye out. In about 3 weeks, we're going to be filming the first Brushfire Mind film production, The Secret Society of Pizza Ninjas and Obscure Geniuses. We'll be doing that through our newly forming theatrical branch, the Guerrilla Tragedians. And once that's filmed and edited and ready to publish, we're going to do a live broadcast with it. We'll sit here, watch the movie with you, and then we'll hang out after the film to have conversation with the audience and take comments and questions and just discuss our work. Should be worth a chuckle. I think it's going to be funny. I think it's funny. I wrote it. I'm a little biased. But,
Can we put up a poll where we talk about what they should tell us to get drunk on while we watch the movie with them live?
Actually, that's brilliant. We might do that. We can put that on Twitter or Facebook, whatever. Anyway, so that's the show. We love you. We need you to keep coming back and watching. And we'll see you next week. Same time, same channel. That's 2000 on Sunday night. That's 8 o'clock for the rest of you out there with half a circle on your walls. And we will see you then. Good night. I forgot. It's right fucking there. I just forgot to hang it up.